I'm Elena from Otter in Time, and today I'm going to explain to you what a quilt pattern is and what is inside a quilt pattern. I'm actually going to show you one of my patterns so you can have an idea of what is included and gives you the confidence to actually try to quilt yourself. So we're going to go over my pumpkin pattern. It's Pumpkin Time. It is one of a 4 series, and I will show you that at the end. A series of 4 pumpkins, and you can purchase those 4 pumpkins on my website if you wish, but this is available to you for free right now at otterandtime.com, and I will put the link in the description. So usually when you purchase a quilt pattern, you get a PDF document or a paper document if you purchase it in a quilt shop or on a website. And what it is actually instructions on how to cut the fabric, what kind of fabric do you need, and how to piece it together, whether it's through foundation paper piecing, traditional piecing, or English paper piecing, and those are 3 different methods of making quilts. It explains all of that in the quilt pattern on how to make usually the quilt top. So it's not going to go over the batting or the backing or the quilt sandwich and putting everything together, but it's showing you how to make the design that goes on the top of the quilt. So usually on a cover of a quilt pattern, you will have the design, you'll have a title. I like to include ideas of what you can do with a quilt. So this is a small, it's 18 inches by 18 inches square, and it usually shows you that on the bottom right there. And you can make a pillow set with this. You can make a little mini quilt. You can make it a wall hanging, a doll quilt if you like to have that. Or you can make multiple of these and you can actually make a bigger quilt. Just by repeating the blocks, imagine having different color fat quarters, making these pumpkins in different color. That would really be a really fun quilt. So on the cover page, you will have a link to my website, and you will also have the skill level required. So for this one, as a confident beginner, that's somebody who has sewn before, who knows how to cut a 1/4 inch, who knows how to use a quilting ruler, and who has preferably made a quilt or a small project before. This is fat quarter friendly, and that is important to know because usually when we as quilters find fabric that we really like to purchase a fat quarter bundle. That is my personal preference because I like to have all the colors within a collection, all the beautiful prints within a collection, and I'll figure out later what I'm going to do with it. So generally a fat quarter friendly pattern is what works for me because I already have so many fat quarters. Now mind you, fat quarters are when you don't have those, sometimes you just have leftovers that are the size of a fat quarter. So for anyone who doesn't know, a fat quarter is an 18 by 42 inches wide piece of fabric. Going through the pattern, I like to have notes in the beginning of the pattern, and usually they're pretty detailed. This tells you that the fabric you purchase should be at least 42 inches wide, and that's from selvage to selvage. Fabric manufacturers make their fabrics either 42, 43, 44 inches wide, and because I don't want you to need more fabric, say I think that your fabric might be 44 inches and that's how I write the pattern, and you purchase 42 inch wide, I don't want you to not have enough fabric. So I'm assuming that you have the smallest amount of fabric possible, so that's how I made all the calculations. Seam allowances are a scant 1/4 inch. If you have quilted before, you probably have an idea. If not, just go ahead and ask me and I can explain that as well. It goes over the stitch length, and I clarify the acronyms that I'm using within this pattern, such as width of fabric, wrong sides together, right sides together, and these are generally industry standards. So you will find the same acronyms within multiple quilt patterns from different writers. I do not like to include binding instructions within a pattern because generally if you purchase multiple patterns from me, they would be the same. So I don't want you to waste your paper. So you can just go download them, print them once, and keep them, and they might come in handy into other quilt patterns as well. If you choose to purchase from me, then you will already have all those binding instructions for all of my patterns. And if you choose not to, then you can still go get them for free. They're available to you on my website. Next, inside a quilt pattern, it tells you what kind of fabric do you need. Usually, if you buy, say, a quilt pattern from a quilt shop, on the back side of it, it's going to tell you what you need because it'll help you purchase them right there and then without you actually opening the pattern. For me, since this is a PDF, I usually post this on the product listing as well on the website, but you will also see it inside the PDF as well. So this way you can keep everything together when you print it. I like to color code my fabrics because say you choose to print this black and white, you'll have the name of the fabric of the color that you need. And you can use the yardage, a 1/4 yard. So when you go to the quilt shop, they can cut a 1/4 yard for you, or if you have a 1/4 yard left over, so that will be 9 inches by 42 inch wide. Or you can use a fat quarter, the 18 by 21 inch piece of fabric. Next, we're going over cutting instructions, and I have covered some of these because I want you to go grab the full pattern and have the entire document from my website. Again, this is a free pattern that you can just go put in your information and download it. Very, very easy. You'll receive this straight into your inbox and you can always click and access that pattern. So from each fabric, I will show you how to cut it, how many pieces you cut. So for example, from the orange fabric, you will need 2 pieces, 9.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and that's going to be your fabric number A. So everywhere within the pattern, you'll see, hey, get fabric A and do this with it, then you'll know it's 9.5 by 2.5. Or say you mix up your pieces because your child or your dog or your cat walked into your quilting or sewing area and you find a piece, you just measure it and you go back to the pattern at the cutting instructions and figure out which piece that is. The green, 1 green, 7.5 by 2.5, and that'll be F, and then M, 2.5 by 2.5 square, just 2 of those squares, all right? So let me show you what you're going to do with that. We're going straight into the instructions for the pattern. This goes over step by step in order how to sew. So first, it's very important for you to read a quilt pattern before you do it and try to get an understanding before you even start cutting into your fabric. I know it's going to take a little bit of time for you to read and kind of imagine everything you're doing. You don't really have to imagine because you have the diagrams, but at least to get an understanding of it. So this way, when you do cut into your fabric, it's going to go a little bit faster and a little bit smoother. So for example, it starts with draw a diagonal line on the wrong sides of 2M squares. Well, the 2M squares, if you go back to the cutting instructions, there are squares that are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So you draw on that and then you put them RST, right sides together. So we're sewing on the wrong side of fabric, so the one without the print, with the drawn lines opposite of each other, and the diagram shows that. So if I go back, my F is 7.5 by 2.5 inches. So that looks right. And you will make unit 1. One thing that I like to mention within my quilt patterns is that you have these midpoint checks. So you get to check yourself if you have done everything right so far. So for example, for step 6, when you're making unit R, once you finish unit R, I'm telling you that this should be 15.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So you will measure unit R once it is completed. And if it's not these measurements, then something went wrong within these steps. So you go back and retrace your steps, or maybe you didn't sew exactly a scant 1/4 inch seam and it came out a little bit short. So it's really good to have within a quilt pattern these checks from time to time, just to verify that you're doing everything right so far. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. It goes from step with diagram, a few steps together with the diagram, and it seems to be pretty easy, but it shows you which fabrics to get, how to place them, where to place them, how to sew them, and what they should measure at the end for you to obtain a unit. So in our example, unit X is the stem of our pumpkin. And then we're going to go to the rounded shoulders of the pumpkin. That's what I call them. They're actually the top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left of the pumpkin. So half of it is orange and the other half is the background fabric. This explains to you how to construct those rectangles. And I actually have a tip on how to trim those rectangles to make sure that it's accurate for this particular pattern, it would be nice if you had a ruler, but you don't need it because I'm telling you exactly how to do it um, with washi tape on a ruler or cutting a rectangle to the right piece and how to position it. So you'll make a total of 4 units, right? So 2 going in one direction, 2 going in the opposite direction. And you will use the same method to make the chevron look. It's literally made out of the half rectangle triangles. So you will have 12 Z1 units and 12 Z2 units. They go in opposite directions, so it's very important for you to pay attention to the orientation of these rectangles. So that will make a total of 24. You only need 20 for the pumpkin, so you will use a total of 8 ZU units in all 12 of your Z2 units. So the other 4 that you have left over from Z1, you can use them in another project. The reason you have 4 left over is because these rectangles actually make 1 Z1 and 1 Z2 unit. So doing them in opposite directions gives you that effect. Actually, this actually gives you 2 Z2 units. So you sew together the units as instructed, the Y ones that you have made on the previous step, and you'll put them together alternating as the diagram into 4 BB rows. Now, once this happens, a really cool thing that you get to see here is that all the BB rows are identical, but rows 2 and row 4 are actually flipped upside down. And this is what's going to give you that chevron effect. So once you have this done, the only thing you will have left is to put the border all the way around your pumpkin and your block will be done. Now you can get all 4 pumpkins if you wish to. This is the series that it comes in, so the chevron pumpkin is part of those. And you can have a coupon code for 25% off the pumpkin parade pattern to get all 4 pumpkins. And that's just a thank you for being a subscriber and thank you for being on my email list. If you choose to make this, again, go ahead and head over to my website and you can grab this pattern for free. And thank you very much, and I will see you next time.